talking today just about what is it like actually on the ground? What does it mean to actually run a program? What do you do when you have an individual thought and want to move it to more of a program scale? And what are the do's and the don'ts of that? So I have two phenomenal gentlemen that'll have introduced themselves before we jump in. But the goal is let's get real nitty-gritty from the people who are doing, have done, and are still doing. So with that, Mr. Shoes, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Oh, Jesus. First of all, I'd like to apologise because I will probably swear as I get nervous because my heart is going about 120 beats per minute right now. If you have a problem with that, tough fucking shit. My name is Mehmet. I am a global resource ops manager, for Oliver Agency. I've been in the talent game for about 10 years now, almost. I started off as a recruiter. And then worked my way into in-house talent and have been at Oliver for the past 6 years. That's me.
Cool, nice to meet you. Good. Good afternoon, I'm Russ Endicott, as it says up there, Director of HR Operations for Publicis Group, who are a media advertising network. So I look after a broad scale of things. I look after the team that deals with a lot of the employees from a permanent point of view, so contracts, onboarding, queries, systems, policies, processes, data, and up until pretty recently, a lot of the freelance recruitment. But as I talk, I'll explain what I mean by up until recently. Previously worked in financial services, luxury goods, am an ex-recruiter, and yeah, pretty much pick up anything that anyone throws at me.
Beautiful. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Talk to me a little bit about the aha moment. I think especially in a room like this, everyone here, I think, is pretty much on board with I should be doing this or I'm already doing this. But there's a very different shift between I'm going to be doing it this way and we should be doing it this way. And how do you kind of make it a movement versus an individualistic? So if you think about your team, what was the aha movement of let's make this more of a program?
I think for us, it was, well, for my company anyway, it was when IR35 was coming in to the private sector. I hate IR35 with a passion. I've been dealing with it, fuck IR35, honestly. I've been dealing with it since it came into the public sector in 2016, and it just makes anybody who works there with freelance talent, just makes everything so much harder. But so IR35, I think, was the thing that kind of triggered us to put a more strict process into place, but we was doing everything so manually at Oliver. Like, we was receiving like freelancer requests through like ATS tracking systems, which just did not work. And we was doing everything by email. Everything was getting sent by DocuSign, and it was an absolute mess. So we kind of wanted to make this a little bit easier and faster, a little bit more compliant not a little bit more, very compliant for the business. And yeah, I think it was just once IR35 came in, we just knew that, we don't want people looking back at us and getting investigated and all that stuff. So yeah, I think IR35 was the catapult of it. But then also as a business, we grew quite rapidly over lockdown. Just before we went into lockdown, we was about 1,600 people, and in the past 5 years, we're up to like just shy over 5,000 now. Globally, so we kind of needed to centralize our operation and our process to make sure that all the offices around the world were doing the same thing and making sure they were all compliant with it.
Cool. I suppose without a doubt, a desire and passion for compliance and the role I do day to day is very much around trying to make compliance real and not a pain. I've built a freelance team twice. So when I originally picked it up, it was pre the IR35 changes, and the business were in a little bit of trouble with some non-compliance, and it really needed getting control of. And as I mentioned earlier, some things just land on my lap. It was gaining control of that and trying to get things right. And building the process around it and trying to build that around the candidate experience, really. Freelancers was and will always be quite a reactive need, understanding the business around the priorities just to get someone in. And it was previously managed just by the business, and by the business I just mean the hiring manager just speaking to a recruitment agency, trying to get them in and getting that bum on seat. And that brought risk, which I recognised. So it was really around creating a better experience and getting that right, really.
No, I like that, because I think when you're usually bringing something in as a programmatic level, everyone has a different idea of the why. And sometimes those will conflict. So even hearing you guys talk about there's some compliance, freelance experience, it's around the program. When I think about how you worked with your team, I mean, I have a partner in crime here at this company that I love, and we don't agree on much. I want the thermostat to be at 22, he wants it 17. I want Indian food at the spiciest level, he wants it at the lowest level. We can't even agree on food, let alone how do you bring in something to a program. So when you think about internal alignment within your team, how did you rally the troops, or do you get to make the decision yourself?
I think you, from the very beginning, I think you just need to be transparent and include them all into why you're doing what you're doing. Just making them part of the process and being transparent with them and explaining to them why this is going to help benefit the business essentially, right? And what it's going to mean for them. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here because my mind's gone completely blank. It's just, just to bring everybody in from the very beginning, I'd say, is the main goal. And then to build trust through like pilots and transparency, essentially. So if you show them what you're capable, what you're implementing and what it's capable of doing, I think that will make a big difference, because I feel like when we make changes operationally, it's normally just a few people or like the people higher up just making these decisions. And I just don't think that's how businesses should operate these days, because they're not essentially the ones on the ground that are doing the work. I think you need to have input from everybody and anybody and everybody that plays a part in the process, essentially, because one, you can get advice from them and see what actually can work and can't work if they don't do the day-to-day. And I forgot my second point, so we'll keep it at that.
Let me add on to what you just said so you can take a look, is because I think what's really kind of neat in this day and age is pilots used to be so incredibly heavy, hardy, and no one wanted to do it because it was going to be a 6-month try, a 6-month effort. And I think as technologies have gotten lighter, we've really moved into SaaS, where it is one of those things where you can say, let's turn it on for a month, let's kick the tires, let's iterate. And the ability to try and do new things is way more acceptable today. It used to be only the business could fail. Try and fail, you were rewarded for that thing. But in the corporate world, it was just a business that you'd get to do. But now I feel like HR, procurement, TA are trying a lot more things and not being so hard on themselves. Let's turn it on, let's go, let's see what's going on. I think that's a huge point that you just made.
Good. I suppose to answer your original question, IR35 massively helped. Previously, there's always a battle to try and get some rigor, some governance, some control over it, and it was fighting against it. And then once the IR35 changes come in, you had something to hang on. You had something to really lean on, and ultimately, speaking to the business, explaining the changes. I said it once, I said it a million times, that IR35 wasn't a new thing, it's just changing. So you should have been compliant before to a certain degree. But I suppose I won with a partnering up with the finance team, understanding where the friction points are and trying to get that. And quite often speaking to finance and saying that at the end of the day, R35 is in the Finance Act. HR might be controlling this, but this is as much your responsibility. But as I mentioned earlier, the objective was around making it easy and maybe not using the word compliance, because then that turns people off. And just building out the process, understanding where the friction points are, and just making it easy for people to do that. Looking at the duplication, looking at the chasing, looking at the bad experience. Payments were mentioned earlier, and I think every panel will speak about payments, speak about the late payments, and how we can reduce the effort and use systems to then benefit later on. But it really was around doing good work early on rather than trying to chase it later on, and that's probably where we won over with the process. Having done it in 2 different businesses in the same industry, to be fair, it was done very differently. The first time there was risk concerns, so it was a big boom approach. We went in, we were quite hard, very much a stick approach and sharing the numbers around the risk where we are, and communicated out, really tried to get the the leads engaged, even though they didn't really, but just explain it from there. And the second time was really around finding the biggest trouble area, managing it with them, finding good partners to work on that, and having a really good case study to then deliver that out into the rest of the business. So it's kind of assessing at each time whether it's stick or carrot. In the first business, it was very much stick because we had to do some quick changes. The second time, it was very much carrot in that we've done this here. This is the experience change. This is the feedback we're getting from this. This is the good partnerships we're finding. I think you should do it too. And it just works because you had the good examples there. And when trying to build out that process, it's very much not adding to the process, but changing the way they're doing it and constantly challenging yourself. Am I making their life easier? Am I going to win this? But then flip side to that, knowing when I'm going out to the business and it's not a popular decision I'm going to make, and just calling that out, just being honest that, there is compliance to that, there is rigor to that, but actually we need to do this and it's going to make your life easier, and hence why we want to get it done well ahead of that. But without a doubt, and it was mentioned on a panel before, it's getting the right specialists in place. And specialist counts everyone, and actually having a freelance talent operations team was the win because you had people who were accountable for getting it right and could manage it and actually make their lives easier for the rest of the business to get that done.
Yeah, and I love that because I want to add on to that around your SMEs, because I think relationships really matter in this. So prior to joining Worksome, I was at LinkedIn where I ran global operations, and relationships matter was a core tenet. It really came down to how you worked with one another, which is very common sense. I think everyone in this room is saying, but of course. But one of the tenets they really brought with us was trust is consistency over time. And it was the idea of when you're working with your partners, right, really making sure you're respectable, amicable, and reciprocal. The idea is as you're working with your team, can they count on you? Is it generally enjoyable? And then would you be willing to do a project with them? And if the answers are yes, you can almost move all mountains. And so I'd love to hear from you guys, when you think about those SMEs or people you brought in, are you guys still in a friendly way? You guys still work together, or was it one and done?
Are we talking about internally within our teams, right? Well, I mean, I fight with all the internal teams on a regular basis. They fucking hate to see me come in or an email from me because it's just like, I think as a business grows as well, like there's so much red tape that gets also added into it. I think you just got to make sure that you just got to maintain that relationship where you are friendly with each other, but also to ensure that you guys kind of have the same goal as well, because we're all trying to do the same thing here. Our end goal is all the same, essentially, right? And I think there's no need to like be horrible about it or, fight with each other about it. We're not saving lives here at the end of the day either, so it's not that deep. But I think, maintaining those relationships with your internal stakeholders essentially is always very important, and just, I think, knowing who to talk to as well and who to go to in the business when you need something done, essentially, or if there's ways around it maybe sometimes. Not saying go above people's heads, but sometimes you just need to, when you need to really get something done, you just need to make sure you're speaking to the right person rather than just being passed from pillar to post, essentially. So, yeah.
Russ?
Yeah, and to add to that, and the first point you made, something I speak to all my teams about, it's not just the freelance talent operations team, but my teams who do a lot of the HR advisory and queries, is healthy conflict. Understanding when there is going to be conflict, understanding when things aren't going to be popular, and making sure that you've got a good enough relationship and communications with different people that bring that conflict to the table, make it healthy, make it a discussion point, and importantly, not make it us that's owning it, not making it all our responsibility, but explaining to everyone that it's everyone's responsibility and we're here to support and make it easier for you. We're not here to make it harder for you. But it is through communications, it is through being open around the point, explaining what things are, and making sure that the right people are accountable, and to the point you made, you're speaking to the right people. We don't want to escalate, so actually don't escalate, speak to the right person the first time. And I suppose where in some of the areas where we've had to bring some hard messages through, I speak quite often around the task versus relationship scale, in understanding that when you have a conversation, you need to be relationship focused, because you need to bring them on the journey. You need to be soft. You need to be caring. You need to put a lot of energy into making sure this right. And then also the flip side to that, the task end of the scale, where you just need to be hard. You just need to be brutally honest. Rewinding back years before my current business and previous business, I just put up a number on my screen, and it was £9.5 million. And I said, if you don't get your acts in order, that's the fine. Because it had to be task orientated to say, I'm not here to cause a pain. I'm here to save that figure. And I work within a client world where I have clients, and I named the clients who are worth £9.5 million. And I said, imagine if we lost them. It's the same.
Beautiful. So you guys fought for it. You saw the need. What does it look like? So what does it actually mean to operationalize hiring freelancers, classifying contracts? So can you share a little bit about your program?
Our program, I've recently got into my new role, basically, of doing the talent resourcing operations. Previous to that, I was a resource manager, so I kind of saw where the problems were and what the challenges we were facing, because it's like, as a business, as we grew as well, it's just like there were so many new people coming into the business that didn't really know how we operated. So I kind of with my director, I was like, right, I just want to hit reset on this, essentially, because it's just not working, right? So we've created an internal ticket management system where the requests for ad hoc resource, essentially, or freelancers, there's now a proper way of tracking it. We can report it, see how much, how many tickets are coming in, and how the skill sets that's coming in, the durations, clients, time zones, everything like that. So then when you start pulling in that data, you can start forecasting, where your highs are, where your lows are, that kind of thing. And then another thing I would say is obviously your freelancer onboarding program, you need to make sure that that's pretty solid, because if they don't have a great experience with you from the very beginning, then they probably won't come back to you. So that's things like, making sure they get paid on time, making sure their onboarding experience was pleasant. Get Worksome on board, because they're really good with that. They pay people on time all the time. Go speak to Jake if you're not signed up to Worksome already. Yeah, and it's just just making sure that it's kind of a seamless process for all departments, for freelancers, making sure your stakeholders know what they're doing, and providing that training on how to do it as well. It's just and if you can start gathering data, because data is powerful these days, right? So if you can start gathering that data very easily by just people doing their day-to-day job, then that's going to make your life so much more easy in the future. So now we have that data, because I basically launched this our platform within the business last September, and when we look at the numbers now, it's we can start forecasting of, what resources we're going to need, how many freelancers we've hired, and what countries and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, there's the elements to it, but I would say just make sure that your process is solid, your freelancer onboarding is solid, and making sure your freelancers get paid on time and make sure they have a great experience with you is very key. And gather data, because that will help you a lot.
Great. I agree. Data, get them paid. Get the good work in early. I can't say it enough. That is where we've won. As soon as you cut corners, as soon as you progress without the right data, it goes wrong. And when it goes wrong, that affects the freelance and the candidate experience. And that's what affects your business, re-engaging them and doing things right. Making it really, really clear and making it a simple process so people know not to progress to the next step until the previous one is done. I'm not saying it's inflexible, but what I'm saying is just do the easy work, get things done. If you need to hire, this sounds stupid, but if you need to hire freelance, do you have approval for the spend? Don't just bring them in, because you'll bring them in and then you can't pay them, and that's where it goes wrong, and that's when it affects the experience.
Can I just say, sorry to interrupt, don't bring a freelancer in if you don't have approval for it, because they probably won't get paid. So many people do this, right? And I'm talking to account managers here. Don't bring in people without getting approval from the people who are actually allowed to bring those people in, because you're just completely skipping so many steps. That's going to cause so many problems, and then that's where the freelancer has a bad experience. Sorry to just interject there, but
I'll drop your mic for you if you wanted.
Honestly, it happens all the time, and I just scream and shout at it. Sorry. really passionate about, as you can see.
Yeah. As am I. I'm just a little bit. And it's not just the payment, it's they turn up on the day without a building pass, without access to what they need, and you're basically paying the freelancer a day to do nothing, apart from complain. Anyway, before we rant, let's move on. Have one way of working, make it really clear to the business. Again, I'm not saying it's inflexibility, but you're clear on how you engage a freelancer, how you onboard a freelancer, how you get things done, and there's one way of working. When it's followed, everything is good. So just define a way to ensure you have that approval to hire. Whether that's a simple Excel spreadsheet or whether that is literally 6 bullet points that gets emailed over, just don't have random emails floating around. And I have progressed from that, from structuring an email format through to an Excel form, through to using a system. And engage the right people and have clear handovers between recruitment and finance, so they are speaking about things right, and that we're not relying on the hiring manager to get the approval, we're relying on finance and recruitment speaking together, so we have the approval already and we know what we're doing. And then once you're ready and you've got things good, get things into systems. And I'll say once you're ready and you've got things good, get things into systems, because if you're not ready and things aren't good, a system's going to make it worse. So get things into systems, and then things happen for you. The hiring manager's added to the system, it's automatically going to finance for approval, it's already landing there, you've got the right data that you need, and then before you know it, you're not doing the work, the system's doing the work. And you know it's right. And then once you've got that, it's tracking the candidates, tagging the candidates, adding notes, understanding the dependencies of what you need to get there. The system's all managing it for you. You've got the approvals prior to things. Everyone knows exactly what they need to do. And the people who don't follow the process stand out like a beacon, and people tell them to go back and they know what they're not doing right. And then just combine the work where it's possible. We had a big win with bulk processing with invoices, setting that through regular activities, so not just doing it reactively when it comes through, but knowing that we can pick it up at certain points and do things en masse. Just collecting it, having clear actions, but I said it at the start and I'll say it again, just get the good work in early and then everything works smoothly and people understand it's right.
The other thing I'd add to that is just really understand why. Right? I think where I see a lot of people, when they get so excited about saying, great, we now have a system in place, then they forget why they wanted to do it in the first place, and they cram 37 other reasons into a system, and it bogs it down. And they just say, oh, well, I thought this was going to be faster. And I said, yes, you added 37 different approval steps for $50 worth of spend. What are you doing? So I think I see that as well. Or with people building programs, they do what they did at the last company, and they forget what this company is and how quickly you can move versus what I've seen done somewhere else, or when I was in Silicon Valley was very much, what did Google used to do, even though your company wasn't like Google? And so you'd run into problems that you didn't have beforehand. So be really aware of why you're buying, what you're buying, and who you are, which makes all those things possible. All right, we're coming down to the end. I love that we're after lunch. I love that we're after the compliance session, because to me, like, the gents on the ground, very different than I would think a Rebecca and a Caroline would be. And so I want to understand from your guys' point of view, when you think about balance, when you think about speed, quality, and compliance, how did you guys weigh those? What's risk aversion versus taking intelligent risk in your guys' programs?
Oh, God. Listen, we have to do it right, because it's compliance at the end of the day. If we're not compliant, then it's not right. But I think when you look at speed and compliance, essentially, right, it's not speed versus compliance. It's you need to kind of embed the process into, you need to embed compliance into your process. Don't just bolt it on. You need to make it part of the process so then it becomes seamless, essentially, right? And it's not speed versus compliance, it's speed through compliance as well. So you just got to make sure that you're doing, this is very distracting. I forgot what I was going to say now. Fuck.
Speed through compliance.
Yeah, it's speed through compliance, right? So if you embed that compliance process as part of your process, it will make everything so much more efficient, essentially, right? Because like platforms like Worksome enable us to be compliant when it comes to hiring freelancers, essentially, right? You go in there, you upload your documents, you upload your compliance docs, you know, your IR35 status and stuff like that. Make sure that you implement a system that works for your business and that helps with the speed and with the compliance, because, oh God, fuck, I keep going blank. Yeah, embed, like basically like embed a system like Worksome where it will help you. And also, when you embed a system that helps with your compliance, like Worksome does, or if it is anything internal as well, you can show your leadership team on how much time and resources you can save by doing this as well. Because if you're doing everything manually, it's so time consuming as it is. So I would say just implement a good system in place and then you'll be good as gold.
Yeah, definitely echo those words around make your process and ways compliant rather than look at your process and add compliance to it. But for me, make compliance speedy and make compliance easy. And you know what I always say is it's not that compliance is a pain, it's actual common sense. Make it make sense and make it natural and make it just part of what you do rather than this, oh yeah, by the way, we've got to do this. Oh, I don't like it either. But actually say, no, this is the right thing to do rather than it being a pain. But do things right and get things in place. And also remembering that compliance isn't just IR35. Compliance isn't just making sure we've got the right to work for the right candidates. But for me, you know, compliance is making sure that they're completing their timesheets, because a compliant timesheet means they get paid. You know, making sure that you've got the right skill set of the freelancer, that's compliance, that you're hiring the right freelancer. Where they need to share their liability insurance, not making it this pain in the process, just part of the process where they can easily just add it to the system and you've got it there. The IT setup, you've got the right security in place. And do that via systems and do it through one way and just make it really, really clear. And compliance isn't pain, it's just a quick, easy process.
Beautiful. All right, guys, one last question. We'll let these guys get out of here is, if there's someone in the audience who's interested in actually setting up a freelancer program, they're not really sure where to start, what's the last piece of advice you'd give them before they go out and start to bring this into their company?
Invest in your overheads, I would say. I think that's people who, your overheads in your business are always something that's not looked at clearly, and people don't invest in it, and it's always the first place that when it comes to cutting budget or cutting back money, that's the first place they go. Operationally, people who work in the operational part of your business are so key and so important to your business, because they're the ones who essentially help run your business or help your business going, right? So I would say invest in your overheads, and to help set up a freelance program, go speak to Jake and just get Worksome on board. Honestly, they make your life so much easier. Do it.
Don't change the world in one hit. Don't try and do everything and really do it. And it needs huge change management, and that includes getting sign-off for headcount investment in your business. The answer is going to be no. It's not understood what you need to do. So the change management starts with the finance team and explaining how you need to get that done. Find your quick wins versus the must wins, the mandatory things, and balance them out to then help that change management. And everything you do, just make it easy and take away that friction and resistance. And then once it's rolling, don't stop. Keep progressing forward. Keep working out where you win. Build upon your talent pools. Try and do things differently. And realise to the first session we had today that freelancers are people, and actually they do want to be engaged, they do want to be spoken to, and they do want to be part of a community. They're not just a quick person that you come in to fill a bum on a seat. They actually really want to feel a sense of belonging.
All right. Thank you, gents. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you, everyone.